Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Darcy's Misadventures with Mixed Media, and today is Friday, April 18th. So for the hashtag ABC April 2025, the letter for today is P, and one of my favorite things to do is painty papers. And also something I like to paint on is the patient, oh my goodness, what were they called? They're PPIs. Patient something information, patient packet information that come in with your medications, because my son and I both have a couple of chronic conditions, and so we have lots of these kinds of things. Sometimes I will collage on them, like this one I'd be more apt to collage on because body parts are not as fun, but when it's just words it's a lot more fun, because if the words show through, it just adds interest. So, you know, every 10 days my son puts on a Dexcom. And so every 10 days I get more papers if I want them. He does save them for me sometimes. And they are fun to just paint on. They're nice thin paper, and so then you can use them for collage. You could take the whole piece and just paint on the whole piece if you wanted to. Or, you know, if you're trying to keep it in frame, like I am, you can tear it down. I'm gonna break this down into 4 pieces. So if I paint on larger pieces like these, I can then use them as pages in journals in the future. If I'm just doing them as collage, I might make them even smaller. Another thing I like to paint on is book pages. Sometimes I'll do like Carrie does, and break up a book like this one and just kind of take a section. Whoops. It's okay if it rips because they're going to be collage pages. These ones are a little bit fragile, so painting on them will make them a little bit stronger. You want to find kind of like in between 2 signatures. See these little pieces? Those are all signatures, and then this is called a book block. So you just kind of take that apart so it's easier to work with. And then, you know, as I could use this as a palette. I could use book pages as a palette. I could use my gel plate. You could use anything as a palette, and then when you're done you just scrape the paint flat, and then you have more painty papers by using your palette papers. And the paint you use doesn't matter. It can be craft paints, it can be gouache, watercolor, acrylics. It really doesn't matter. If you've got your Medicare in you, that is something else you could just paint on. And then you can, if you want to use them as tags, you can just back it with some coffee dyed cardstock, or you could even just paint the other side. If you collage on them, which I often do, I usually like Gail Augustinelli, I'll link her channel. She uses her Medicare and You to collage in. It's a great way to collage and keep your collage pages, or even, you know, once you finish one, then you can tear it out. But it's just nice to have a place to work on them, because sometimes I'll work on several pages at a time. So I do want to get started. The things that I paint with are all kinds of things. I love a brayer. That is one of my favorite things. My favorite brayer is a speedball. Oh no, that's the one with the tan. This is covered in paint. I don't clean them until they're ready to be peeled off. A messy brush, silicone brush. That's also a messy brush. Nicer brushes. Expired gift cards and whatnot. In fact, this one's becoming a piece of art all on its own. Or like a scraper that you can get in. This is, I think, in for baking. I think they also have some that mechanics use for applying bonding glue or whatever. And then there's a catalyst, which is not important. You know, you don't have to have one of these, but it's nice to have. And palette knives. Oh, I was gonna grab a palette knife. What happened? I got distracted. Here's the palette knives I could find. They come in different shapes. Oh, this is actually the Cricut scraper. It's not a palette knife, but I could use it as a palette knife. And this is just a little baby palette knife. I usually like a bigger one, but oh, here it is. I was gonna say, but I don't know where I like a bigger one. So all those just to get paint on the paper, and we're gonna layer. Oh, and also stencils and stamps. And if you don't have those, that's okay. You can just do mark making with markers. Whatever you have, it's just fun to play. So let's go ahead, and you can start with some of your favorite colors. And some of your base colors you might want to bring back later as a top color. That's just a nice way. Sorry, this is chalk paint and it needs to mix better than that. You have to shake your chalk paint really well. I don't know if this one was upside down or should be upside down when I store it or what, but yeah, all that dark stuff on the top, that's not supposed to be like that. And if worse comes to worse, you find yourself a stick of some sort. I know I have a knitting needle in here somewhere. Well, we'll just use this crochet hook just so I can get that mixed up in there. And then just get it on my palette. Wipe my needle off on my palette. And then maybe even on my paper. Because we don't like to waste paint here. And I could start with multiple colors or just start with one. I think I'm just going to, this one I'm just going to start with a base color. And I think I'm just going to paint it on there. Now if you don't want the words to show through, just use a more opaque paint. If you don't, oh, also, let me get a piece for underneath. It's just nice to have some under paper or drop paper, because then, you know, you get paint on it and it's random, and it's just kind of also fun to use as painty paper. So definitely need more. And you don't have to even fully cover the paper with this first layer, because you can come in with some other colors as well. Let's see, I'm trying to think if I want to use, oh yeah, I was told I don't use warm colors enough. I use a lot of cool colors are my go-to. So I'm gonna try and use what's this one? Permanent Red Violet. Let me just pull up book page for that, because so I'll use both of these as a palette. See, if I mix these when they're wet, I'll get brown. That's why I'm kind of using two separate palettes for them. And I'll probably even use a separate brush unless I want brown. And because I did such a thin layer of the other paint, it dried fairly quickly, so I shouldn't get mud. But I'm okay if I do, because you just kind of cover it with some other stuff. The pieces, the parts you don't like. But yeah, I tend to, I'm drawn more to like teals and like seafoam green and blues, definitely blues. Alright, so I'm going to set this aside to dry and paint some more pieces and some more colors maybe. I'm going to take off my sweatshirt. My sweater's getting in the way, but it is a little chilly. But that's okay. I don't mind. I'm going to get hot quick, I'm sure. Let's see. Oh, here we go. This one is Soho Urban Acrylic Turquoise, which is actually more like a teal. To me, a teal is darker than a turquoise, not as bright, and that's what this one is. And I want to use my brayer, because I want to show, you know, the different effects of different tools. It's thin paper, so yes, my brayer does get caught up in it a bit. I do like that I get some lighter and darker, or thicker and thinner parts when I use the brayer. Alright, set that aside to dry. And the other thing was a scraper, right? So I'm just going to take the rest of that paint and just scrape it right on there. Makes it pretty transparent. You could also use a baby wipe to put paint on, which make it even more transparent. And when I'm doing the upper layers, I'm going to want it to do that kind of, this kind of a thing on the top layers. On the bottom layer, maybe not so much, but that's all right. Where's that red violet again? Those are good colors to use together. Ouch. Oh, and if you saw my community post, I did get to see the rheumatologist, and he believes that it is rheumatoid arthritis and has started me on a 12-day course of low-dose prednisone because I have had gastric sleeve, bariatric surgery, which, you know, so I have a smaller stomach. So he doesn't want anything to go wrong with my stomach. So he's being extra careful with steroids. So it's just a 5 milligrams. And yeah, hasn't started working yet, but I have hope. You'll know when it starts working because I'll be like, woohoo. Now my left side is feeling a lot better, but that's not the side I use. I did not sleep good because my shoulder is hurting, especially last night quite a bit. I took some Tylenol this morning. Yes, I was told not to take ibuprofen while taking the prednisone, but I can take Tylenol. So that's good. Let's see, what else do we want to do our base coat with? We've done, this is one of my favorite ways. It gets it covered really fast. You can have thicker parts and thinner parts. Like I could leave that thinner. The palette knife I'm more likely to use on upper layers. Like once I have a base layer, then I'm more likely to use a palette knife for other layers. And you can see this paper down here is already starting to look interesting. And you can do your paper all one color, or you can do multiple colors. In fact, let's bring in some yellow ochre. Love some yellow ochre. I tend to go for muted colors. Like that teal is kind of a muted turquoise, or muted, it's more muted. So it has like that darker tones to it. And like yellow ochre has that, you know, brownish tone to it. What's nice about the palette knife is you can get texture with it, because it will be a little bit thicker in places. You can get some interesting marks from it. So I might make a few more of these off camera while the other ones are drying, and then come back in and do the next layer, adding some stenciling. But already we're getting texture and interest just by throwing paint on there. Okay, so this is mostly dry. See, if I'm gonna put this color or similar color to this on here and a similar color to this on here, I need them to be dry so they don't mix and become brown, because those are kind of opposite on the color wheel, and that's what can happen with them, is they can then turn brown if you mix them. So you don't want to mix them. Be forewarned. Now I'm gonna use hold on, I had it a second ago. I think I used red violet here. I'm gonna use quinacridone magenta, which is similar, just a little bit brighter. And I've got the Soho turquoise, which to me is more teal, for there. And I turned this paper so that the stickier part is up there now. And so now I'm gonna take some stencils. Any stencils will do. This is one of my favorites. You will see me use this a lot. And I'm gonna grab a sponge, or a couple sponges. I could find one sponge right now. You gotta put your stuff away if you wanna know where to find it. I'm just gonna cut it in half so I can use it for the two different colors. And I'm just kinda wanting to do the magenta, take some off so it's not too thick, through where I can see the green, and then I want to put the teal. Actually, really, it doesn't matter. They can overlap even, and I don't want to put it on there perfectly. I like it a little bit more looking distressed, so I might kind of like end it at some point, just kind of, and then restart it further down. And then it kind of looks more distressed, and then you can add some other shapes in between. I also like to layer patterns on top of each other. I have no problem doing that. My one thing that I usually try to think about, but not always, is the size of the patterns that I'm layering. I would usually maybe layer a smaller pattern on a larger pattern, and vice versa. I wouldn't necessarily go for two similar size patterns or maybe like one's more subtle and one's more bold. Or you could even add like a thin layer of gesso in between to kind of push one pattern back, and then you'd be able to have it be a little less busy that way. I'll try to remember. I don't always remember things, but I will try to remember to show all those things. I do have a video where I did some layering, and I'll try to remember to link that below. That was quite a while ago. It was a couple years ago, I think I did that one. But I did a lot on the jelly plate for that one. And yes, this is hurting my arm, so I'm not sure how much of this I'll be able to do. Where'd the other half of the sponge go? Here it is. If this hurts too much, what I'll do is sometimes I will use my brushes with paint, and then just make sure that I wash them off. Do I always remember to wash them off? No, of course not. Let's see. Let's find one that I'm not really using. I think I used that with some oxides, but I'm not too concerned. It's just, it's less harsh on my arm to do it like that. And you know, I'll have some places where it might overlap. So I've got, yeah, it did go under. That's okay. It's just a layer, and I can always push it back, let it with the gesso. Really doesn't matter. I can kind of blot that out so that it dries a little bit faster too. Kind of blot it on some other paper, which then gives me interesting stuff on my drop paper or under paper or whatever you want to call it. And I should be able to match these up fairly well. If I have less paint on the brush, that will probably help. I want to kind of focus where the red is. I mean, the violet. There we go. That's fine. That's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. This is one of my favorite stencils. When you see me use, well, you can't even tell this was a white stencil. When you see me use these white stencils, they're made from Yupo, and they were purchased at pmartiststudio.com, which is also who I'm a designer for. And this one was created by Brad, who is part of the family-owned business, and he just makes some really cool stuff. Everybody does, all the designers. A lot of you have come from Carrie Griffiths, aka Carrie the Crafter, and you know that he is also a designer. Some of this is still a little bit wet. I want to brighten this up though with a lighter color, so I'm going to bring in this Viridian. It will mix with that darker color a little bit, but that's all right. And use that, and I'm just going to come in with some different stencils and different designs. That was a little thick, so it probably went under, but that's all right. This is another thing I like to do. I just kind of like to mix and mix stencils on the page. So like do this stencil and then come in and do another one, so it's not an all over stencil. Let's see, what was that? I got the smaller version of this one. A little much on there, but that's all right. And if I overlap a little bit, that's okay too. I don't always go all the way to the edge because I don't want like a square, straight square edge usually when I do this. So just kind of, whoops. And I think this one, yeah, this one, when you buy the different sizes, you get different size, I call them medallions, but it's Oriental Lattice is what this one is called, in case you're wondering. And yeah, I could even come in with some white, which would brighten it up even more, which I may do with some layers. Other things you can use, obviously stamps, bubble wrap is fun to use as a layer. You may bring that in, we'll see. You can use paint, inks. If you want it more opaque, you want to use paints. The inks even the permanent ones tend to be more opaque. And if you're going to use it for collage, you probably want to use permanent inks. So, you know. Alright, so on this one, you might want to come in with a contrasting. This is not opaque, but that's okay. I'll still. This is Nickel Azo Gold. The little bit that I have left, I'm just going to use my. Should probably use different stencils than just the same ones over and over again, huh? Alright, we'll use this mask here. And just get some little dots in the background here. I like the orange and the teal together. You can use the whole diameter, or the whole, I don't know, the whole circle if you want to, or just the middle part. That's what's nice about these. This comes in, like, they have the masks, and now they have the stamps, quilted crop circles, and they also have like a big 9x12, 8, like bigger pieces that you can use on the gel plate. I don't know who's mowing their lawn, but don't they know I want to record and have my windows open at the same time? It's supposed to get up to 80 today, but hopefully a dry 80, and so it won't be too hot. Plus it's like a little, we'll do a little bit of pink in here too, because why not? Pink looks good with teal too. And it's a little bit more opaque, so I can do that in here. So this is usually, the second layer is either going to be stenciling or just another layer of like scraping paint. Any of those things work. Also, you can use your mark making tools, piece of cardboard. This is where gel plate really comes in handy because it's easier to get paint on and off of there, you know, onto a mark making tool if you have a gel plate. But gel plates are not the most important thing. I think you could probably even use a silicone mat, like, you know, you might know. Silicone baking mat could work. I know some people have been doing some mono printing using silicone baking mats. But corrugated cardboard is a nice way to add some marks. Just adding some lines here and there. And of course you can cross them to then make a grid. Or you can just have them be like that. Or you can even just make lines with a pen or acrylic marker or any marker that you've got. Use what you've got. I'm just telling you, use what you have. Don't go buy anything special to do this. Use your free papers, your junk mail, your patient packet inserts, whatever. That's still really wet because it was really thick. I also had cut a bunch of these small so that I could just come in and start doing more stuff. And I think I'll start adding some stamping on the second. So the layers don't matter. The order of how you do things doesn't matter. This one, I'll do some stamping next. You know, as soon as I find a, oh, black. I think I want to use black. This is a stamp from PM Artist Studio designed by Carrie Griffiths, aka Carrie the Crafter. Sketchy Circles. This is the one that has the that's filled in, and is also the other one that is open, which I also have and love. And then you just put it on your painty paper. And sometimes the background painty paper where you didn't care what you were doing is like is some of my most favorite papers. I could even, this stuff here, I could just go ahead and, this is, Carrie calls it kissing the plate. And we got some interesting things happening because we had the corrugated cardboard on there. So we got some really interesting marks by doing that. Layer it over the stamp, which was permanent ink VersaFine, so it's permanent. And already we have an interesting paper. Like, I would use that in collage as it is. These words show up a little bit, it's okay. You can even read some of the words, it's okay. It doesn't matter. If you really don't want the words to show, just use a more opaque paint to cover them. I generally just don't care. Really, when it comes down to it, I just don't care. Let's see, we got these X's. This is one of the sweater textures. Black is nice to use. It's just a bold, nice bold thing. You could just kind of do it like that, and then we can do some other patterns in between. And then let's see, this one, I've got, this one is a semic writing. This is the smaller one. There's 2 sizes. Turn it over if you don't want it to be all perfectly matchy-matchy. And that's just fun in the background. We'll add some more stuff. Where's my palette knife? And even just kind of see if I have any wet paint on here that I can just kind of palette onto here. Just some little marks here and there, and maybe even see if there's any more of this that's still wet enough to pick up, and there is. It gets grungier as you do that too, but also just more interesting to me. To me, that's more interesting, more better. Let's see, there's another one. This one was just red in the background. Oh, I love red and teal. So let's pull out the teal again. This one, the words still show quite a bit, so I want to cover it pretty well with something, but I still want some of the red to show through. So what I might do is just go ahead and take my cardboard and go the opposite direction of the words, so it cuts across the words like that. So now it's a lot harder to read, which is good. That's what we want. We want them to be harder to read. Well, I do anyway. And then here I can just go across this way. And if you don't do it straight, it's gonna make it harder to read the words. I mean, do we really want syringe and whatnot showing? Probably not. Let's see. Can also, oops, just sprayer off on this, and some of the pink will still show through, but it's also going to, so yeah, you can just do another layer of paint on top of a layer of paint, and then you have more interest and depth of stuff happening there. Do I have more I know I have more pieces, because I made a bunch of little pieces, and using 2 colors on your palette and then scraping them together also makes some really interesting pieces. That's a background piece there. This one's still wet. The thing is, when you're doing thick paint, it's gonna take longer to dry as well. Let's take this one, this palette one, which is mostly covered, and just kind of get some of these edges that don't have the paint, and just kind of pick up that right there is really cool. On the edges that are missing some stuff. And also, while you have your paints out, that's a good time to grab your strips you've been saving. I've been saving them. And grab a paintbrush and just do some little swatches. Sometimes you can do swatches any way you like. You can do them a bunch of different colors or all one color. I find them easier to use. I'll do more of these when we get to the S's. If I make a video that day, I will most likely do more of them, because then it can be used in collage, and it's just fun to use in collage. And if you can wet the paint, wet, I have water right here. Just kind of have some wet paint and then splatter it. What the heck? Usually you need to, yeah, splattering the swatches is even more fun. And that's another layer you can do on your other pieces. And you can do those whether they're wet or what. Just splatter some paint. However much you get on there will depend on how big your splatters are, also the size of your brush. You'll see a lot of people use a fan brush when they splatter. Just whatever you like. When I want little splatter, I'll usually use a toothbrush. One new from a package that I use just for paint, not one that's ever been in somebody's mouth. Please don't do that. That's just kind of gross. But it just adds another layer, a little small pattern, more interest. It's just fun. Let's see, is anything else? I need to dry some things and then we can come back. Oh, and what's fun about using this as a palette is I can then, once this is dry, pick it up, put a paint layer on and put the paper on, and it'll be something you can't see through there. That's all covered in paint. It's something that is interesting. Some of my favorite pieces have been from using that as a palette. All right, let me dry some of these and I'll be back. Now, when you use your heat gun, and your paint is it's thick and it's still a little wet, you can get these bubbles, which is an interesting, fun texture to have. There's some here. I mean, they'll flatten out some when you add more stuff. Also, keep your heat gun away from your gel plate. They're bad. They're not friends. They're not friends. All right. I think I'm gonna push this one back a little bit with gesso. Gesso is used as a primer on anything, on canvas, on paper, it's used as a primer to give you a workspace. Let's see, what does it say? It's an opaque matte white ground. Apply to surfaces to seal and prepare before painting. You can also use it in the upper layers to push back things, because it is let's see, while it says opaque, it can be semi-transparent if you don't put it on super strong, and it's a little bit more chalky than regular paint, so that is a fun texture to use. One way I like to use it is with my sprayer, if it will turn. This is actually going to mix a little bit. Not going to be just white because I've got the other paint in there, but I'm okay with that. So I'm just going to lightly kind of press down, pull up, press down, pull up. So I think Seth Apter calls it skipping. Different people might call it different things. You can go in two different directions, where you just have a lot of paint on the brayer and I'm just lightly, I'm barely touching the paper, so it's just coming down in certain spots. It got really thick here. I could leave it like that, or I could brayer it out a little bit more, which pushes that, you know, because the teal was in there with it, it really pushes it back quite a bit. But right now I don't have as much paint on my brayer, so it's just mostly smushing out what's there. And then once this dries, I can come back and add some more patterns. This has definitely been pushed back a lot. This just a little bit. And this page here is interesting to use. So if I don't have a lot of paint on my brayer, I can push down a little bit harder. But you can see that has changed that paper quite a bit. And that definitely needs to dry before I can add much to it. Let's see. Oh, we got this piece dry. What do we want to do on this? You can still see a lot of the words through there. These aren't terrible words. They're more about what to do when you're putting on your Dexcom and whatnot. But let's go ahead and find some more stamps we can use. Yeah, this has a nice small pattern on it, so it will definitely cover up a lot of the words. And I'm just going to, I don't want my square edges, so I'm just gonna come in, oops, make a mess with it. That's okay. That's okay. It got smushed there. That's user error, because we've got slippery paint. We got to remember that. And the VersaFine ink is for non-porous surfaces, and once you put acrylic paint on here, it's not a non-porous surface anymore. And I think I keep hitting the cord and moving the camera, so I apologize for that. Let me stick it in the drawer. Oh, sorry. I just stick it in the drawer so it stops getting kicked by my feet. So now I'm just pressing in the middle I'm still getting the edges, but that's okay. Because it's just a layer. There'll be more layers. This is the Neurosphere. The edges are cut off, but the circles are fun to use. Just saying, they're fun to use with whatever. Oh, this is what I'm looking for. To add some circles here and there. It doesn't matter that these match or don't match. It's just interest on the page to me. So most of what I make has all these colors in it, so it's okay. They're opposite on the color wheel. Red and green, so pink and green would also be opposite on the color wheel, and yellow and green are next to each other. So that's why you might be thinking they don't work together, but they do work together, and that's just because color theory. So that is a fun way to just add circles here and there. So we've got like a little pattern, a medium pattern. Do we want to add a larger pattern? Ooh, I've got the I had my, there you go, this one. Let's see, I kind of want to maybe bring in some dark blue, or do we want to add some Morning Glory blue? That'd be interesting. It'll be a different color, but that's okay. If I don't like it, I can always, oh, it comes out darker. Well, because there's black on the stamp before, so it's coming out as like a darker blue, which is what I would have wanted anyway. So I just kind of, you can turn the stamp, or you can turn your paper, or do both. And I just like this as a swirl stamp. I know it's a Nautilus stamp. Would be good in an ocean journal, but it's just kind of good as just a swirl stamp too. If you wanted to, you could just kind of put a piece of, if you didn't want the end, if you just wanted the swirl part, you could probably just take a piece of tape and just, nope, you can, it's not going to stay. I was thinking of Post-it, but you know, because like maybe you don't want the whole swirly, and you can just, maybe you just want the round swirl of it. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but don't worry about it. Just adds another layer. This comes in a set of 4 at PM Artist Studio. It's 3 Nautiluses and Stompy Rocks, which is one of their very first designs that they did. These embroidery things are some of my favorite things to use. Can you use them with ink? You get a subtle, very subtle something comes through if you use it with ink. They work better with paint. Can you have too many layers? I don't know. I don't really care. I just keep adding until it makes me happy. Because as a big piece, it might look like a lot, but when you tear it down to a smaller piece to use somewhere on a journal page or on a piece of ephemera, it makes more sense and it works really well. So just remember that if you feel like you're getting too much pattern on there, just remember you're not done yet. Well, let's see. What's next? What do we want to do? All right, so we've got a lot of color on color, like two colors here. If we want to add some drama, there's a few things we can do. Maybe add some black. And we have like circles and geometrics here. So I'm going to add the peacock stencil feather just as a background pattern using the black. And that's going to be more of an organic shape. I do like the juxtaposition of some geometric and organic shapes together. And I'm just going to do this as a pattern, kind of like a random pattern. And just kind of go up like that. Not over the whole thing necessarily, but here and there. And you can see that adds some interest. Maybe one more right there. Why not? These hold a lot of ink. You can get a lot of stamping out of just one. You know, I only put the ink on it one time, and I got all those stampings from it. And they're all, you know, the first one's the darkest, and they get a little lighter each time, but not significantly. Like it holds quite a bit of ink on those. Somebody asked me about washing your stamps. I tend to not wash them because I'm not picky about the next time I use them. If the color gets, I like surprises. But if you are using black ink and next time you want to use a brighter color and you want that color to be bright, then yes, you will want to use like a baby wipe or a damp paper towel. You know, stamp it off as many times as you can till you stop seeing much ink come off, and then wipe it down with a damp paper towel or a baby wipe. That would be my suggestion, because even the permanent inks are going to re-wet and add something to your pieces. This is still tacky, but that's okay. It's a lot of dark on here already, so I'd want to add some brighter color. You can use these stamps with paint. You are just going to want to make sure to wash them right away. Normally, if I was thinking ahead, I would have, this is gesso again, I would have a container with a wet paper towel in the bottom to set this stamp in, but I don't. So as soon as I'm done using it in the paint, I will take it to the bathroom and wash it off. Wet paper towel, and just make sure that it gets totally clean. So I've got round on here, so the X's will be nice to add onto here, especially where there's not a lot, but also I like to layer it as well, so you don't have to keep them straight. It's personal preference on my part. But I am layering right over where the circles and the lines and whatnot are. Maybe I'll turn it just so that there's a little bit of interest. These are part of the sweater textures that I think came out in January or February. Because usually, you know, I think sweaters in the winter and whatnot, and so I just kind of like that as a texture to have, and plus I like it for mark making. I do have one of these that I cut up, so like I have a strip of three, like a couple strips with them, but you got to do that yourself. And then so then I bought myself a second one. All right, I'll be right back. Actually, I've got some water right here, so I'm just gonna dampen this or get it really quite wet, and then make sure that I get all the paint off of this. You'll see some of the inks coming off too. There was some black ink on there prior. And just make sure there's no paint on there, because the paint will dry and build up, and then it'll mess up your stamp. So you don't want to leave paint on there. And really, that's all. Just wet paper towel will get it clean. It'll leave little bits of lint in the background there, but you know, once it dries, it'll brush off probably, maybe. I don't know. All right, so that is what that paper looks like now. That white brightened it up some. And does it look too busy to you? Well, that's okay, because once you tear off a piece, it's not too busy. It's perfect for just making a tag even. Should we make a couple tags with our painty paper? Or we have to, no. It is nice to actually show, you know, using the things that we just made, because now you might be wondering, okay, you got painty papers, what do you do with them now? I use them in collage to make master boards, or I use them just back them with something, and just I could even just use that one piece as a background for a tag or journal card. Like this one would make a cool journal card. Let me get a piece of cardstock. Get my cardstock that Took sent me. This is perfect. So I'm going to cut down my piece the size that I want it, because that will just make my life a little bit easier. And then I can figure out what part of the paper I want to use. I'll make a couple of these, I think. So I'm gonna do 4 inches by 6 inches for one, and then we have that smaller piece, and then I think I'll do a 3 or 3.5. by, that's probably like 7. And then this one, I'll just 3.5. And that is almost 5. So it's like 3.5 by 5. So I've got some bases to work on, and we will just cover them. It's nice if you have some tea dyed or some coffee dyed cardstock, is then you have a nice backing for your piece. Now, I could fit this way and get 2 pieces out of this. And I don't even mind if like that does that at the top. Yeah, let's do that. I'm just going to use, this is the one I ruined. Put your covers on your glue so you don't lose them. I don't like to have to figure out the size of my paper and then have to line it up perfectly. So I will usually just go ahead and glue that, and then I might even go over a little bit so we don't have that. There we go, get that even down there. I kind of like what's happening up there. And then once you have it down on here, you might want to do as I say, not as I do. Add more layers to it. I would not be opposed to doing that at this point when it's smaller. You can use scissors, or I don't mind that happened. I actually like that. I think that is actually more interesting, but then I like grungy stuff. So you can keep your words upside down or upside right. These actually are, where are the words? Oh, the words are going this way, so it doesn't matter. Think of words as lines. If don't get all tied to, oh, my words need to be this direction for me to use them. Think of them as lines. They can go this way, this way. They can even go diagonally if you want to. It's not that big a deal. I'm just gonna do a little bit of that brayering on there just to, I need to smooth out my, if I don't smooth out the wet paint on my brayer, I'm gonna have all those little dendritic strips on there, which will drive me crazy. And then I'll just kind of push them down a little bit like that. Let's see, what do we want to add to this? Maybe some, ooh, Carrie's circles. I like circles, and I cannot lie. Just gonna here and there, and also might on some of these other pieces with the paint, the ink that's still on here, just to add some more. You can see on the darker pieces that this black stamping is a little bit more subtle, which is fine. It's nice just to have these papers just even by your desk, so that when you are using stamps and you still have like ink on your stamps that you want to kind of use up, that's a good way to do it. I wanted some dots in the middle, but I didn't want as many, so sometimes that's what I'll do. So there we go. So we use those dots. They'll be used in different things, so that doesn't matter so much. Also, let's add some iambic writing. It gives us some circles, would be kind of a, I guess not a geometric, well, circles are in geometry, right? And just kind of adding some iambic writing in there in the background gives it a different shape. Layering over the circles a little bit here and there is perfectly fine. You could even put it on your gel plate and then it'll pick up. Just make sure you didn't get paint on there. I didn't, so I'm good. All right, and so already we have this really cool background. You know what we're missing though, maybe some gold. I don't suppose that I left that gold ink over here. I had it on my desk earlier. Or some white. This is acrylic, so I should be able to just splatter some of this. If I want it smaller splatters, I could use a paintbrush. If you don't have stamps, don't worry about it. You can, if you just get a cheap paintbrush, doesn't have to be a fancy schmancy paintbrush. Let's go ahead and see, and that's great as it is, or you can add a focal point on it. Really fun to use in a journal. You can round your edges. I will probably ink it once it's dry. It needs to dry first. All right, let's grab another one of these and we're just gonna glue some more paper down. And this time we'll do some mark making. Let's see, will we use a paintbrush this time? Maybe. Just kind of press it down so the glue stays on there. Now, if you don't want your paper to rip by using the ruler, you can use scissors. You can also use, you'll see some people sometimes use sandpaper to just kind of get sort of a rough This is a really fine grit sandpaper, so it'll take a minute to come off like that, and I think that'll give it an interesting look when I ink it, because it's roughing up the edges just a little bit. Sorry if you don't like this sound. I'll pause to do the other sides. And for those that are very, very new and don't know what I mean by ink it, I mean, just take your favorite ink, whatever color. It can be a neutral color like vintage photo or coffee. My preference is coffee. And you just kind of ink around the edges, frames it out, gives it a little vintage look. This one's permanent, so I don't have to really worry about it coming off. I will take some art glitter glue and glue down those edges that didn't stay down. I will sometimes also, where there's the white spots, if I don't like the white spots, I'll ink on those, just to make them not so obviously. You can actually do a little bit of inking. It'll brown out some of the white paint that's on there and make it look a little bit more grungy or vintage. And if you want to go really grungy, you can use a darker brown. If you like bright and happy, you can ink it with bright and happy colors. I could have inked it with orange or teal if I wanted to. There's no rules. There's no wrong way to do it. The only wrong way to do any of this is to be too scared and not do it. That's the only wrong way, is to not do it at all out of fear. You know what I'm saying? I'm gluing this down. I could have also ripped it off and had it have an interesting edge if I wanted to, but this time I decided to glue it. Like I said, there's no wrong way to do it. So now we have this kind of background. Let's see. Oh, I might want to add a little bit of this red. Just a little bit. I'm not going to use that though. I'm going to take this nice little flat brush. You can get, not this particular brand, this is Art Smith, so that means it is Michael's, thank God, on sale. But there are similar ones to this that I've gotten, like 10 or 12. And then you can just make little marks with your paintbrush. So a little mark making. You might want to do some down there and some here. They don't all have to be, see, I did them different. Those are lined up, these are alternated. It doesn't matter. However you do it is fine. There's no wrong way to do it. Because if you put a focal point on there, no one's going to even know that they were different. It's fine. Kind of annoyed that I did it, but it's not wrong. It's just, you make it look on purpose. So now we'll do some that are lined up here and some that are alternated here. There we go. Now it can look a little bit more on purpose. And you can see, because it's on the darker background, it's not as bright as it is on a lighter background, which is perfectly fine. That is one. So you can use paint brushes, or you can use Posca pens, or if you don't have Posca pens, there's other brands. Another brand that I like is, not that one, Thule Art. I like these pens as well. You can get a lot of muted colors with those, which you can't get with the Posca pen. And they're pretty opaque. Let's see. Let's try this one on, well, you know what? Might be fine on here. They make nice little polka dots. I love layering polka dots on top of lines. I don't know why, I just do. I guess because of the difference in size. You can just be random with it. Breaks up the lines a little bit. I'm gonna come from the thing up from the top here and do a little bit less up there. It's subtle, but it adds more pattern, more texture, more layers, more fun. Let's see. Once that's dry, I could come back in with some white to brighten it up, or some gold, or whatever. You can use something to outline it even. I think, do I want black? I might use black. Do I want it that thick? I think I can. So I'm just gonna come up here and just kind of do a really, I'm writing light so that like it kind of skips, and then I'm kind of doing like a little scribble and not making it a really solid line, but it's going to outline it in an interesting way. You could also sew around it, which is, I like to sew on my paper things. It just gives it texture and interest. So that just framed it out a little bit too. You can leave it in as like that and put it in your journal like that, and then maybe you'll find a picture when you're, you know, journaling about your days or whatever. Or you could find a focal point that you like and put it on there if you know where your focal points are. So something white like that will stand out. I don't feel like cutting out those middle parts right now, and I would really want to cut out those middle parts to use that. Let's see. This I probably wouldn't use just because it just kind of falls into the background. This is on more of like a cream white, not a bright white paper, which is fine. That flower, color-wise, that was just a random flower that I made. Or just, he would be too dark unless I wanted to put some book page behind him to have him stand out a little bit. This is just a little bit small, but something that, like that, could still be fun. That, it pops because of the outline. That I did like black Posca pen and then a gel pen on top of that. About him, he's a little, no, I don't like him on there, sorry. Sorry, not sorry. So I think I like the idea of like something like this on here, or even, I like the less bright. I mean, I could tone this down. This one's like, you can see it's brighter white. I could tone it down by inking it. So yeah, let's see, this one's got, I used a blue marker on that one. That's too small. You want to think about size. I also could just make a new one. This one just needs some lines drawn on it, or it could go on there like that. That actually would be interesting. Just like a white silhouette, or I could ink it, or do whatever. So that's an idea. Just looking through my box of doodly. No, that color doesn't work. Doodly doodly doos. Could take this piece that's on a paper bag, and it's a little bit big for that though. So yeah, sometimes it's hard to find the exact perfect, ooh, thing. That could be fun because there's red in the background, but I would want to cut out those middle pieces. So that might be what I do. I just need to come in with one of my cutting tools. I got a new finger one to try, but... Oh, and they have this back on Amazon. The only thing, this is a little harder to use because it has a swivel. So that makes it a little harder to use. But it's not terrible. Sometimes I will just grab some book pages, or sometimes I will find one of my things that I can use to cut on. Oh my goodness. Yeah, like a cutting mat, you know. I have smaller ones, but no, why would I find that one right now? I think I'm just going to kind of cut through and get my straight line here, and then I might come in with my scissors once I get that line and just use my scissors to cut the rest, except for these little ones here. It's hard to get your scissors in there. But I do still want, oh my goodness, that white outline so it will pop on the page. But also, I don't want this much white. So yeah, I'm just going to, I'll be right back. I do think having those white pieces cut out makes a difference. Yeah, got a little bit edgy over here, so let's smooth that out a little bit. They don't have to be perfect lines, but you know. And then I know I have them white, but I'm gonna just ink them up just a little bit, just to make them a little bit less white, but still, it'll still show. I'm not making them super dark, just blend, just, you know, but doing that out just a little bit. And could come off, I think, right there might be good. And I will use the art glitter glue because I'm sticking it to a painty surface, which will probably be harder for the other glue to stick to. And I'm like, I just had it. It couldn't have gone that far. Whoops. So just get all the glue on there and just glue that right on there. I am not likely to put something in the middle. That's just not what I like to do. But so now that this is a fun background, it's kind of a dark background, but then when you put something on it, it brightens it up. So we had 2 that we finished, right? Where's the other one? I don't know. And then we've got, like, this has 1 layer on it. Here's some pieces left from the papers we used to collage with, and some painty papers using the patient packet inserts. You can use any paper. You can use book page, you can use copy paper. It's a great way to cover up your junk mail. Book pages is fun. We've got 1 layer on there, ready for more layers. Got that one and that one. Oh, here's the other card we made. I haven't inked it yet though. I do kind of want to ink that. And yeah, so that one's interesting, a little bit grungy because we've got that the ripped part on the edges there. And I might even round the edges on that one. I think I'll use the 1/2 inch, the bigger one. You could do just 2 sides, 1 side, 4 sides, totally up to you. But there you go. So there's a couple journal cards made using the painty papers, plus the fun painty papers, any size you want. I think the small ones are fun to use because you just go through all your stencils and just start putting patterns down and layering them up, as many layers as you want. I will probably add more layers over time, but we're out of time for today. I hope you all have a delightful day. Love you.